Well, this bill is really very simple and straightforward. It would rename the Norwood Lateral, which is State Route 562, and it runs through Cincinnati and Norwood to the Barack Obama Norwood Lateral Highway. I think it's appropriate because in Hamilton County, there's the Ronald Reagan Cross-County Highway, and that runs east-west. This would be it's a little bit south of that, and it's the perfect complement. Hamilton County is a county that has blue and red voters. It's a tribute to President Obama because he's won Hamilton County twice, so it makes sense. That was the same criteria that was used to name the Ronald Reagan Cross-County Highway.
But that's just on the downside. On the good side, we have some other things to discuss, and I think this is going to actually change an outlook that I think we're starting to see down in your area and in the area in which we live, called Hamilton County and downtown Cincinnati. House Bill 598, which was brought up by yourself and Representative Driehaus, stating that the creation of entertainment districts. You bring it up as the idea of something that's very similar to New Orleans.
Right. Or Beale Street in Memphis.
Okay. Yeah. I do know Beale Street, so I can attest for that. I guess my first question is, why did it take so long? I mean, we were just discussing here earlier that a year ago we might not have even been thinking of discussing it, but actually you and I had.
Yeah.
But if you go from Cincinnati a year ago to Cincinnati today,
yeah,
is a completely different animal, and actually a very embracing area for those who want to have a place to enjoy themselves while they're downtown.
Right.
And this will help in that same idea. Now, for those who don't understand or haven't read the bill, what exactly would you consider an entertainment district?
Okay. Well, let me start out by saying that this bill actually was Senate Bill 116, which was Senator Eric Kearney, Cincinnati.
Yes. Right
good
down
local,
the
good local guy, St. X grad. We won't hold that against him. The viewers, I am a LaSalle grad, so
yes,
a little bit of a rivalry
little rival
there.
There.
Really what a municipal entertainment district is it loosens the open container laws within a certain, defined district within a municipality. So for example, as written, the legislation says that by population, certain, like say for example, City of Cincinnati, they have over 350,000 residents, so they can have up to 3 municipal entertainment districts. The way it works is each municipal entertainment district is half mile by half mile, so half mile squared. You have to have no fewer than 4 A2 or D permit holders. Let's just say no less than 4 bars in there. And it's got to be located, of course, within the municipal corporations, for example, City of Cincinnati. But once you get to that point, once you have all this in place, assuming this bill were to pass, you'd have one of those bar owners would have to then petition the mayor. So the mayor would get the petition, and in 30 days he'd say, okay, well, I like this, I'm going to pass it on to the legislative authority, which is the city council.
Okay.
The city council would then post notices in the Enquirer. They're required to do that on 2 different weeks in a 30-day period. If all is good at that point, within 70 days, 75 days of when the mayor first got it, they will have a vote on it. And if it passes, that becomes a municipal entertainment district, and you have the loosened open container rules on that. There are some quirks to that. I mean, you can't just walk in, obviously, with your own drinks and just say, hey, I'm going to party in the Municipal Entertainment District free of charge. And you can't bring your drink into, one of the bars there from another bar. Just you got to consume it there or outside. Yeah, I think this bill has a great chance of doing a lot of good for the city of Cincinnati. As we were talking about earlier, it'd be nice to actually have made it into Bakersfield at once. It's last time I tried to get in there, it was a 2-hour wait. The people want to go down there. I mean, the entertainment is there. We can expand on this. I mean, Cincinnati, as you were saying, is just completely different.
It's a completely different entity. I mean, people are utilizing green space. People are utilizing the facilities that are there. People feel more invited to be there. There is, as you say, I got lucky to get into Bakersfield. I got lucky. That doesn't mean I'm going to get lucky downtown anywhere else, but there are many restaurants down there now that are starting to really pop up and show life. And when you start having that type of synergy when it comes to that, from all the way to the river to, quite frankly, pretty much all the way to Findlay Market,
right?
That's a hefty, I mean, obviously a little more than a half mile there.
Yeah.
So as we discuss these half-mile districts, the city could have up to 3 in our vicinity. Obviously, the banks probably being one, OTR probably being a second. I'm speculating, if they chose to use it, quite possibly the casino area to maybe clean that up.
Right.
Of course, I'm trying to do logistically, how far up would half a mile be? Would it ever make it to any of them touch Fountain Square?
Good question. Without a map in front of me, it's tough to say. But you know what? I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, the half-mile squared is a big area. But I mean, even if you didn't do Fountain Square, I mean, there's other areas. There's certainly Mount Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Although I think the residents might. I mean, that's kind of quasi, residential, so they may have a problem with that. But I mean, yeah, there's Fountain Square Casino. I wish I had thought of that in discussions with Cincinnati Chamber, because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, because again, we were discussing earlier that you're starting to see a lot of change and a lot of cleaning up and making it an inviting place to go.
Correct.
The entire area by the casino is still very new, don't get me wrong, but it's still an area in which you want to be entertained. You want to still go out there, but you still have to walk a little bit if you wanted to. Maybe didn't want to eat inside there, but wanted to go elsewhere. You had to do a little bit of a walk.
Right.
But again, that doesn't mean there are a few vacant areas that could still be renovated and redone, as they have been doing over the Rhine and the like.
That's right.
So we're seeing this change. Now, the wonderful thing that, as we were discussing earlier, and the thing that I was pointing out, is that the handshaking that is going on amongst those co-sponsoring this bill is quite amazing, considering you have spanning not only Mallory and Reese, which is a part of the constituency down here in Hamilton County, but you have one from Clinton County, one from, well, technically 2 from Butler, technically 2 from Warren, Claremont, and Lorain County.
Mm-hmm.
And from both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
Which, again, is, as we all know,
what you want.
What you want, and not usually seen,
That's right.
Especially in something like this, because now we're changing a cultural idea, really. Yeah. Especially something that's not been embraced heavily downtown.
That's right.
And looking at this, and my brain's starting to really kind of go, thinking like, well, now maybe if you don't do that, maybe if we don't do the casino area, you do the Aronoff area, but then over the Rhine might hit that area.
Ooh,
so yeah, exactly. So you've got the off-Broadway area, and you've got these great areas. The open container loosening of this, obviously we're not going to see everybody just carrying beer bottles and wine bottles and everything else around. There will be tightening rules on this. my first thought was, is everyone at that point going to be required to have gated areas? Because is that not the law currently stating that if you wanted to serve alcohol outside, it must be within a...
That has actually been brought up. We're still in discussions with how we want to accomplish that. But yes, you're absolutely correct with that. Some other issues that we've brought up, and of course, some of the players that are going to be brought to the table. You're going to have members from law enforcement. Obviously, that they have to be.
They
there.
have to be part of this.
3CDC, the Reds, the Bengals, Cincinnati Chamber. They're all heavily involved with this. And besides the law enforcement aspect, when people are partying, typically somebody's going to get hurt. So this falls, into what happens with liability. And this is where the legislation needs to be tweaked, I believe. During the application process, it is actually one of the A2 or D permit holders that actually turns in the application. So they're technically designated the municipal entertainment district.
Okay.
So are they liable for everything in the municipal entertainment district, or how do you determine that? It's murky, so that has to be cleared up. But I think that we can work with this. Obviously, New Orleans and Beale Street have done so for years. Mm-hmm. But it can be worked out. But again, a lot of work needs to be done with that.
And obviously, you have models that you can go back to. What are some of the things that you went to in looking at this to kind of base it upon? That like these are good points to start with.
Right.
That are able to really be incorporated here, because realistically, this sounds like it's going to really start down here. Right. And spread throughout the state.
I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, my first thought as well is when you're looking at an entertainment district, does that also require that area after a certain amount of time, a certain hour, to be closed off, to be barricaded? And at that point, if that's the case, does that help or hinder?
Right.
Do people really want to see, mounted police and barricades in a half-mile area and people not being able to drive down whichever way?
Right. Not to mention the traffic. That would be a problem as well going around those areas. Right.
But yet you're also looking at the safety of those around.
Right.
You had brought up about those being the filer.
Yes.
And to start that, how many participants, I can say, do you need to have within that district to flourish? Does it have to be one, or
you need at least the 4 A2 or D permit holders?
That's right. Okay.
Right.
So, say for example, let's take the banks for example,
right?
Because I can name a few places off the top of my head. Not that I'm not advertising here. I'm just saying I just can remember them quicker. Let's say Moraline obviously is probably going to say yes, because they've got that whole green space area.
That's right.
They've already kind of, if you want to say, kind of started in a way.
Right.
You've got Toby Keith, and
Yard House maybe.
Yard House, and let's throw in the Wine Guys. So we got 4. Banks is set, but let's just say Crave at the corner says, I don't want to be a part of it. Does that hurt, or does that just mean that they're not going to be a part of this?
Right.
Does it mar that area in any means?
That's one of the things that needs to be tweaked. Currently with the law, it's the way the application works, it's not defined in that situation. I would think you'd have to have some sort of unanimous group of permit holders say we want this. If there were somebody that was off to the side, I would imagine they'd be just drawn out. That would be my thinking with it. If they happen to be in the middle of some district like this, it's anybody's guess. Whether I guess you'd form a donut around it, but again, it's something we're definitely looking at. And
just thinking again, if by chance you had the 4, and say 2 months later, Holy Grail says, I want to join in. Would it be easy for them to just say, come on in and they write themselves in on that?
You know, that's something that I would imagine that the council would have to reconsider.
Okay.
And that's probably the best way to do that. I mean, you're electing people to oversee this. If it gets abused in any way, then well, you know, they can dissolve it. One of the other things that was talked about by the chamber was putting a sunset provision on these, so that it had to be renewed. They didn't have to take, you know, if the council did nothing, it could just expire.
Okay.
And I thought that was a fair provision. You know, it makes sure that there's no craziness, or if there was no political will to stop something, you know, there's a fail-safe in place.
And it sounds like if restaurant and bar owners know exactly what's going on and what they're allowing themselves to get into,
Sure.
then there would be really no worry if it would lapse or expire, other than, you know, maybe a change of ownership or something to that effect. But it kind of, again, goes to that idea of ownership and who is the responsible party here.
Right.
Now, again, obviously, this is going to go through a couple chains of command, obviously going from the mayor to the council.
Right.
And that way. Do you find that do you think there's enough fingers in pies, or is there too many fingers in pies when it comes to this? I mean, I'm seeing this as something that needs to kind of be heavily regulated in the fact that you're
Right.
dealing with something that could quite possibly harm someone.
Right.
So what is the outlook on gaining somebody's idea of that area and keeping the tightening with that chain? How far do you think that would go?
Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay, I'm trying to, because I'm getting a message here and something else. So I apologize. I was
Oh,
a
no,
little
you're fine.
misstepped there. But what I'm saying is that we're hoping that again we're following this chain of command.
Right.
And again, a lot of people are always worried there's too much government involved.
Yes. Yes.
But when you have something that could quite frankly harm someone,
Yeah.
to find that again, because everyone likes to do it, whose finger do we point and blame first?
Right.
Do we have too many, or should there be another safeguard in there?
Yeah. Well, I think it actually is pretty good where it is with the city council. I mean, you know, these people are voted in. You know, if it's really bad, you know, they can always just dissolve it.
Sure.
To sit there and think that the city council would all be, you know, somehow in collusion with this and weren't going to get rid of it, even though people were getting hurt, you know, people get voted out on things like that. So I think the right safeguards are in place. I mean, I don't really know what else. You know, you would do. I mean, this legislation, as you were talking about earlier, you know, why wasn't this done years ago? I mean, it's the states controlled the laws. I mean, you're right. It should have been the local governments controlling things like this. I think the city of Cincinnati and the council are perfectly capable of dealing with this. So, and actually, that now that I think about that was another amendment. See, I stuff to keep them all straight. That we were trying to put in there because Southwest Ohio is unique in that we have some very gigantic townships down here. Coleraine and Greene and Anderson come to mind.
Fair, yes.
Right. They both Coleraine and Greene. I'd have to check Anderson, but they both have more than 50,000, which is the minimum threshold for a single municipal entertainment district. However, it's not written as such that it's you know, it's not just, it's a municipal entertainment district. It has to be within a city by definition. We'd like to change that, you know, for townships so that Coleraine could have one if they wanted it. You know, if I brought it up with them, sure. Mm-hmm. Have they been excited about it? To them, it's like, we're already kind of doing good on our own.
Yeah.
That's fine. They don't have to put it in. Same way that Cincinnati, if you know, there's enough people that don't want this, they still have the ability to do so, but they don't have to.
And again, we're looking at something that, again, I pointed out all the co-sponsors because I wanted to show the Southwest tie and how much it is really benefiting here. But if this were to pass, this goes statewide. It opens the door to Columbus,
Oh, yeah.
which I don't know the population, but I can imagine. I'm already imagining the places that you could go with that one. And short north is a clear answer. German Village.
Yep.
You can probably you could probably go as far as up to, well, not contingent obviously, but like Easton Town Center, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you've got all those. It could really help Cleveland.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, and there's actually a lot of smaller cities around Cleveland that have that threshold. It might give them an added boost.
Sure. Dayton could use a boost as well. I mean,
I think we all could.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you've got the Dragon Stadium down there,
Right.
and a great area down there. Downtown in general, just would be a great way to do it. And I can't leave out Toledo, so so it would have benefit at least the larger cities,
Right.
to that effect. Again, this is just being introduced and just being worked on. Obviously, this is probably something that you'll go back when session starts, or are we going to hold off after election on this one?
This will, again, we're not in session again and probably until after the election. We might show up to discuss a few things, but I doubt this is on anybody's agenda until at least after the election.